Hey, listeners, this is Shane, one of your hosts for RecLess. We're excited to be back for season four. We have new guests, a growing audience, and a new opportunity sponsorships. So if you would like to be featured or highlighted in a future episode, reach out to us at recklesspod@gmail.com. Once again, that is recklesspod@gmail.com. For everyone else, make sure you're following us on our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Have a chance to interact with Tom and Jay. Hell, I may even thumbs up something you say. So, to keep up with all the latest news and all of our stupid shenanigans, make sure you're following us. All right, now on with the show.
Welcome to Season 4 of RecLess, the podcast expanding your knowledge and making you smarter about the field of parks and recreation. Your hosts are Shane Mize, Jay Tryon, and Tom Venniro, three career-long friends from around the country bringing insights, industry stories, and a surprise guest each episode. Thanks for swinging by. We're glad you're here. This is RecLess.
What's up, Tom?
Hey, guys.
Okay.
We were talking about kicking you off. We're just going to talk more about it in person.
In Massachusetts.
Yeah. It's going to be a breakup. A breakup dinner.
A farewell tour.
Go to dinner on Friday before we go to the airport Saturday morning. And
That's
sorry,
right.
guys, we're done.
And then we're all staying in the same hotel. So
That's right. Which I'm still excited about.
Awesome.
I don't know who I'm cuddling with that night, but one of you.
I
Tom,
will.
do you know who Cooper Webb is?
I don't.
Okay. It's
Do
not
you?
Spider-Man or something, is it? Webb,
Do you know
Spider?
who Cooper Flag is?
Yeah.
I
Who's
know.
Cooper Flag? Shane doesn't.
Duke.
Yes.
One and done. Number one recruit.
I think he's coming back.
Oh, okay.
I think he's coming back. I hope. We'll see. I'm going to see him next week. So
You gonna like actually going to see him or just the game?
well, I mean, he's playing in Charlotte. The ACC tournament's in Charlotte.
Get him on the pod.
Oh, yeah.
I get to talk to someone else. I don't know who the fuck I'm talking
Right
to.
when March Madness is starting, the number one college basketball player in the country is going to join this podcast.
Be huge for their numbers.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the fifth episode of season 4 of RecLess, a podcast focusing on the industry of park and recreation through three close friends in different parts of the country. My name is Jay Tryon. I'm your host today. And as always, I have Shane Mize and Tom Venniro with me. How's it going today, guys?
Good. I mean, it's not as always, right? Like anymore.
Well, for him
One
it is.
time.
For him it is.
One time.
It's always when he's on. We're here.
That's true.
Well, you know what? I missed
Contract
one, and I
negotiations.
guess I have the ability to take a little slack for it. But you know what? It might happen again where one of you guys aren't there, and I can't say that if I'm hosting. So we'll see.
That's right. That's right.
And I was just about to say we're actually off to a really great start to the season because I feel like we have a really diverse set of guests so far. It's been exciting because you had obviously Andy kick off, and then Trey, which is very different dynamic that we've not had. And then, into the other two that we've already recorded that are not out yet. And
Matt's
I'm
out
excited about
today.
as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So we've had some great diversity with the guests, and I'm looking forward to today as well. I kind of want to pose the first question leading off of last week's episode with Anthony Iraqi. And Tom played a little game at the end with March Madness. And it got me thinking, if you were in your department, then you could only offer one program. Okay, so obviously we all run a lot of programs. I'll even allow you to have a special event if you want to go that way. But if you could only do one the entire year, council says, hey,
Wow.
one program, what's that one program going to be that you're going to offer?
That's
very, very similar to the March Madness theme. And
yeah,
it's
but some of the stuff
obviously-
with March Madness, we talked about like amenities, like playgrounds or greenways.
Yeah.
So I just want like a program. Like what's that one program that like even say like you were asked to start a department tomorrow, like a brand new department or you're in a new department and you can only do one program. What are you doing?
If it was an event, it's obviously an Easter event, but that's a one-time thing, right? And I don't think it's got the weight, and so I don't want to go that way. I'm of two
Yeah,
minds for mine, and I'm sure Tom, I mean, like,
Well,
uh,
I'm only allowing you to have one. You
well, the
can't have
most
two.
important thing I think we do in our industry is, I think, swim lessons, because I think it provides a skill that makes people not scared of the water. And I've always been very proud of the swim lesson programs we offer here. I've never been in an aquatic heavy department previously. And so Hutto didn't have aquatics, and Missouri State didn't have aquatics. In Fort Worth, it wasn't something that I was anywhere close to. And so, the 3,000 or so people every single year, adults and kids, that learn to swim, have a lifelong skill. And we know that if you know how to swim, it's like 89, it's almost 90% less likely to die in a drowning if you know how to swim. So, like, if you've got that skill set, just know how to dog paddle, you're no longer scared of the water, you can do some strokes, you have a very high chance of never drowning, which is something I think our industry does. It's very important. What I hate about it is it's just a summer. I would love to have something like that to tell you for a year round. Same thing for camp. I'd love to have camp's got an incredible impact on people, but it's summer oriented too. So I think I'd say swim lessons, and maybe I would just do them year round with a heated pool and everything else, because we do have a couple heated pools. But I think that is one of the most important things we do.
That's a great answer.
yeah. I didn't expect you to go that route, or at least that's where
I didn't either. I'll be completely
What
honest.
do you think I was going to do? Sausage making, or like?
I
I just didn't.
I thought you would have done an event. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I like events better than programs in general, but it's a one-time thing normally. So
I don't know if this is a cheat or not, because Shane mentioned camp being summer, but I was gonna argue just out of school program, right? So if
yeah,
I had a
that's year round.
department that literally only did out of school program, right? And that could be summer, it's during school, it's before and after school, it's recess breaks, all that, right? And so I look at it from a couple different perspectives, and one is it's had a lot of impact not only on the individuals, which we'll get to, but it's had a lot of impact on people in the field. That's like the gateway of
Yep.
getting into this field, right? So almost, well, I don't really know the numbers, but most of the individuals you talk to, right? How did you hear about Parks and Rec? How'd you get into it? I worked at summer camp, right? Or I worked at a before and after school program. I think that's a very common story for origin into this profession. So in general, there's a lot of jobs out there, right? So the swim lessons, that's a very specialized job. You have to
Yeah.
go through certain trainings.
Although a lot of people are lifeguards too in our industry.
True.
Yeah, yeah. A
True.
lot of people, or you're not even in our industry. You'll talk to a bank president, and he was a lifeguard at 15 or 16. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
So the impact on the profession, but then of course the impact on a community and the individuals, right? And so with an out of school program, you're you're providing such a service that is almost a necessity to so many individuals, and not everybody needs it. I know there's people who work from home or whatever. They have one parent who maybe is a stay-at-home parent, but there is a lot of individuals in the community that do utilize those services, and we're not the only provider in the game, right? You've got the YMCA's, they're all over the place, and I understand that as well. But I always go back to years and years ago when I first came into the profession. There was something called the 40 developmental assets. I don't know if that was a local or if that was a national thing, to be honest, because it was very young into my career. It could have been just countywide. But the premise was, how is Parks and Recreation providing an asset to individuals, and specifically at the youth level, right? We talk about, if you do have two working parents or a working family or a single parent home, where you send a child, which I do, I know Jay does, where you send a child to an out of school program from anywhere as early as 6, 7 a.m., and you might be picking them up anywhere as late as 5 or 6 p.m.
Mhm.
That's a lot of hours in the day when they're not in school that they're with us. And so
Yeah.
we have a really huge responsibility and impact on a child's life, not knowing what their home life is like. And even if their home life is the best, which we know that's likely not the case for every child, the relationships that these individuals build and the skills, the life skills that they learn, socialization and whatever it is, the games and the fun aspect, and just keeping them in a safe space is it's really second to none to me. And obviously it holds a special place in my heart because that's how I started. I've also seen that start and to the point of the question, if you were going to start an agency. When I got to Chili, Gates had a pretty robust program. When I got to Chili, it was a small, literally, Mike Curley was the director. He was the only recreation staff. He had two full-time clericals. So what he was doing was utilizing part-time staff or volunteers. We didn't have out of school programming. There was no before and after school. There were no recess camps. There was a summer camp, but that's it. And I saw those programs build that department in 3 years from me being the second ever full-time recreation staff to a staff that by the time I left had five full-time recreation staff. And it was all directly built from having those programs. Similarly, in Hilton-Parma, we just had the summer camp, not the rest of the before and after school and recess and all that. And I've seen our department grow from three full-time to five full-time rec staff. So it can also have a huge impact on your actual organization, your agency, and growth. And last point on the camps and out of school, those families then in turn become kind of that program becomes kind of a gateway to get them into events, to get them into the youth sports program, to get them into swim programs, or whatever else it is that you offer.
So you took everything I was going to talk about. So you hit it on the head. Tom and I are on the same page. But no, I think summer camp would be my answer. I love summer camp, both as someone that went to it as a camper, worked it as a camp counselor. That was my foot into our career, was camp. I was on an interview panel yesterday. It was really what kind of prompted this thought of this program and how impactful it is, because you can look at it through so many different lenses. Tom mentioned it. I'm a parent. My child goes to camp. I know the people that have influenced him through going to camp, the relationships he's built with friends going to camp. But I was interviewing someone yesterday for our camp director here. Last year was their first year working at a summer camp. And it was their first year working with us. And because of their experience in our camp program, they are actually going back to school to pursue being a teacher. Oh, wow. And she's currently a TA with children with autism. And it was like she just learned this passion that she had to be around kids and work with kids. And it was, this gateway of, wow, I never realized that that was an opportunity that I wanted to pursue until I worked summer camp. That's just from the staff perspective. Then there's all the other benefits, like I mentioned with the kids of, relationship building and making friends and, just life skills and all these other, attributes of it. And just the experiences, going on different trips and playing different games and, things you'll never forget. I mean, the swim lessons is obviously a lifesaver, but you could make the argument
and you can wrap it into camp.
I was going to say you can have swim lessons. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
One last thing. I know we covered it all and we want to get to the guests. Really, you mentioned that, and Jay, I shared some interview questions. Just to, I think, put perspective to how important you mentioned the staff aspect and what that gives to the actual staff. Even if they don't go into parks and recreation, that's a really great experience for them to either train as a parent, patients, whatever it is that they're going into. There's a lot of skills you can learn. And one of the questions we ask at the end of every summer camp interview, doesn't matter what level, and it is just, again, leveraging and trying to understand how much of an impact you have. What do you want that child to say about you at the dinner table or in the car ride home, right? And it's a really simple, rudimentary question. You want them to say that you're fun, that you had a great time, and that. But ultimately, Jay, you mentioned that your son probably can relate. I think you said you shared a story, Jay, that you remember someone from your childhood that served in one of those capacities, and that's a great. It's just a great position and a great program that we offer.
I know we're belaboring the point, but Neely spoke at Traps last week, and he had a story about Robert Armstead, who ran a latchkey after-school program, and a kid that was in it is Neely's mentor in this small world and the current CEO of Nike. And what was cool about that is the guy had some very nice words to say about Robert, and Robert's a great person, a titan of our industry. But when you talk to Robert gives all his credit to Michael Ann, who helped him get that first job and was the supervisor of the park of the program he did the latchkey services in. And so, you don't know, like y'all kind of said, almost like secondhand smoke. You don't know the impact downstream of the people you're having an impact on when you run one of these types of camps or programs, because it's linear. It just continues to flow downhill.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Well, I'm going to transition over here to our guest. there's some cool things I'm going to share, not just about our guests today, but also about their department, because I think it's going to key up some of the conversations we're going to have. So to give you some facts and some hints, today's guest is a graduate of Kent State University. You guys know where that is?
Yeah, well, no, I don't know where it
Not
is. I
Kentucky?
know of it.
I don't know why you'd think Kentucky. I said Kent State, not Kentucky State, Kent State.
Well,
Hey,
you can't spell Kentucky without Kent.
Oh my gosh.
would it be giving it away if you told us the year, just out of curiosity?
No, but I'm already on to the next fact. They were awarded the Outstanding New Professional Award by their state association in 2019. They were a 30 under 30 recipient in 2021. Our guests grew up on a farm where they grew flowers, fruits and vegetables, pumpkins, and Christmas trees. So going on to the special event side of it, I'm sure Shane has had his fair share of trees and pumpkins for holiday events.
Right.
They were the first female director of their agency. They are very active in their state association, and Tom has actually attended the state association's conference. And he's been to several now, so I don't know if that gives you too many hints or not. They own a lake house and spend a lot of summers on their boat, which I can imagine Shane's not probably a big boat goer. I love being on the boat. That's like one of my favorite
Despite
things.
his swim soliloquy
Yeah.
earlier today.
But here's some cool things I wanted to share about the municipality they work for. So this is not going to necessarily tell you facts about them, but it shows the improvements and the vast hard work that's gone into their department and some of the things we're going to talk about. So 10 years ago, the municipality that they work for, the Park and Rec department was in need of major changes. The municipality itself had no money in the reserve. Public works equipment was malfunctioning, and the township even had trouble sometimes covering payroll. Okay. They had very aging Park and Rec maintenance needs. Their amenities that they were serving were quickly growing, and diversifying the community was really important. And then over the past 7 years, their department has received almost $5 million in grants. They built a new park. They launched a 69-acre expansion of another park, diversified their programming, increased program revenue by almost 80%, and doubled the Park and Rec staffing.
Damn.
So very fast-growing organization, and really comes to show how essential it is what we do, and they've been able to excellent that point throughout their town. So today's guest is the Park and Rec director for
Do we get to guess?
Go ahead. You got a guess?
I think it's Molly.
Nope.
Damn.
Okay.
Did you know who
wasn't-
it was? Tom? No?
I didn't say it yet.
I didn't know.
Okay, so today's guest is the Parks and Rec director for South Fayette Township in Pennsylvania. Please welcome Paula Willis.
Hey, welcome.
Hi.
Hey, Paula. I think you were at the general membership meeting in the fall, correct?
I was. Yep.
Okay. Well, good to see you again.
So Paula was also at the RecLess Social in Atlanta. And at the time, I was already like getting her scheduled to be a guest last year, and it got moved. So I don't know if you guys saw us talking, but she was there in Atlanta.
I showed up late, Paula, so I
He
might
did
have
show
missed
up
you.
late. We're excited to have you here. I want to just dive in because I know when you first started with South Fayette Township, you were the only employee in the Park and Rec department. And that is a very daunting task, but I'm sure extremely satisfying. Can you talk about like what that challenge was, and what it was to overcome some of those challenges, and then what it meant for you to grow to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started in 2015, there was a previous Parks and Recreation director, but he was more heavy on like park development. So they really wanted to bring someone in to expand programming and events because there was pretty much nothing here. Kind of maybe offered tennis lessons and yoga lessons and like an Easter event, and that was it. So I only had a little bit of experience. Before South Fayette, I worked as a Parks and Recreation director for a small borough right outside of Pittsburgh with only about 9,000 people. And I was their very first recreation director. So had very little experience, but I think they saw some spunk in me and some energy, and I had what it takes to kind of, advance the department. So when I came on, I quickly dove in and got additional programs and events going. But it was really hard because we were still like in our hardship time. So, funding was limited. So I had to come up with really unique ideas to fund these programs and events, really start getting some grant funding for projects. So it was challenging, but really cool to be part of it and kind of put my own spin on everything. And just grateful that they saw it in me and didn't always know what I was doing, but I was able to kind of figure it out. And do I really know what I'm doing now? Who knows? But still figuring it out as I go. So.
That's awesome. Well, I know like Shane and Tom and I all were fortunate to become directors at a young age. Like, what was it like for you becoming a director at such a young age?
Hard, and being a female too. Not always everyone wants to listen to me. When I started, the township really didn't have a relationship with all the athletic associations. So kind of what's unique, I don't know how your guys' departments are set up, but like all the sports are individual associations. And they just kind of work with the township for like field space. And there was no relationships with them. And so it was a challenge to build those relationships. But one thing they said that I was someone who actually like listened to what they had to say rather than just assuming that us as staff and parks crew and public works crew knew what to do. Like I actually like asked them questions and listened to them. So it was definitely challenging, but one piece of advice that someone gave me when I first started was know what you know and know what you don't know, and then go find someone who knows what you don't know. And that has just shaped my department because being so small, at first I thought I could do it all myself and I couldn't. So I did have to go out and find people who knew things that I didn't know and ask their opinions and ask for help and not be ashamed to kind of ask for that help, whether it's from other departments or from volunteers or other individuals in the field, like from other neighboring communities. So it was challenging, but also fun and great to learn along the way.
So it sounds like you've twice been the first person into your department, which is funny because that's kind of what their question was a little bit. But how do you scale something? How do you build it up when I would imagine every win matters, right? Like you've got to hit on whatever program or camp or event you do so you can convince that board to support the next staff request or the next program or event. And so how did you get small wins like that, and how did you scale?
Yeah, so like the primary focus when I first started was the programs and events. So once I got those kind of established, they wanted to expand parks. And I said, okay, in order to, get grant funding and expand amenities, I'm going to have to kind of step away from these events. But the events they were growing. We're a really fast growing community. We're building about 160 homes a year. So the attendance, the events were like growing and more programs, and we're diversifying too. So the types of programs. So in order to step away from that, kind of needed someone dedicated to those. And it was actually an event that I had where I decided to drop 10,000 Easter eggs from a helicopter.
Okay.
During the event, it got really popular before it happened. And on Facebook, there was like over 5,000 people interested, and our park could not handle that. So I had to arrange for buses to pick up people from outside the park. And trying to do it all myself and handle everything, I forgot to follow up with the bus company to confirm that they were coming. So the buses didn't show up.
Oh, no.
So about half an hour before the helicopter was supposed to come, our police called me and said that people are waiting, for these buses. So, it was this big disaster. I had to delay the helicopter. I had to figure out how to get the people in the park. And it was at that event that I think the township as a whole, all other staff, township manager, a board of commissioners saw that like we are growing so fast, the expectations are growing so fast, and I physically
It's a capacity issue.
we can't handle it anymore. And I do have really great like admin teams. I work really well with our public works and communication and police, but the organization and all of that, I just couldn't do myself. And I think that event was kind of the breaking point to show of what Parks and Rec has become in the township and the expectation. And, we couldn't do it alone. So that's when I was able to really start like advocating to bring on help Also, kind of like personal, I had my first son in 2020. And being the only person going on maternity leave, what are we going to do about it? So that was also a perfect opportunity to get someone in for my maternity leave and then transition to having more staff. And since then, it was able to take off. I have it's myself and our rec coordinator now, and then we're bringing an intern on this summer. So it's just amazing what I can physically show adding more on, just more events, then I have more time to write grants and do park projects. So yeah.
I just want to point out it all happened from an Easter egg event, fellas. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
My
Yes.
husband was in that helicopter, and to this day, he says that was the best day of his life, and I will say that's the worst day of my life. Not on the same page on that.
Man, not even the wedding, the best day of his life. Man. I bet that got him in the doghouse. So, Paula, I really enjoy your story. I can relate a little bit, not 100%, but we don't have a whole lot of individuals who, and I think Pennsylvania and New York, at least upstate New York, are structured very similarly. A lot of towns, you call them townships, we call them towns, but size wise, and it's definitely unique, and not everybody gets to experience that. But what you're experiencing and what you just mentioned, it just shows you that it's all about partnerships, right? It's all about leveraging the success of what you're doing to your stakeholders. And that includes obviously your participants, your elected officials, and you mentioned it, the other department heads, right? Like they have to see it. One really interesting aspect of being a part of a small department and running a small department is that you do a lot. You wear a lot of hats. So maybe we don't really talk about this, but I feel like in my position, I've done just about everything, right? And in some of the larger departments, you're siloed. And so tell us a little bit about that. And maybe for someone who's interested in pursuing a director's position in a smaller department first, or maybe that's just where they want to be. It doesn't have to be first. But how do you wrestle with basically being the go-to on everything? I mean, I could assume that people they're coming to you for marketing. They're going to you for just about, in addition to the programming in the parks. How do you wear those hats, or how do you juggle that?
I really do like being a smaller department because then I can, do get all you understand where other people are coming from. And as I add staff on, I've had to learn to step back, but I can also relate to them. But kind of wearing all those hats, I just can't stress enough, like the great team, the admin team we have here. So I work really, really closely with our communication director. She's amazing. And without her, we work so well together. We actually created this really cool sponsorship initiative that I would love to get into later if we have time for. But wearing all those hats and just being lucky to have team, the admin team, but also learning how to lean on your volunteers. So I have a Parks and Rec board that I lean on a lot. I lean a lot on just during the events, like our volunteers, but leaning on them, and they know that I understand pretty much every aspect of my job. So it makes it really easy to kind of have conversations about it, depending what we're working on. So,
You know what? If we could just get into it, I'd love to hear more about that sponsorship piece that you're talking about, because that's another part that it could be very siloed, right? That there's a whole department working on sponsorships, but that's another part of your job. And so, yeah, tell us about it. Sounds great.
I think in 2016, when I was tasked with bringing on more events, we needed funding for that. And right at the same time, our communication director was bringing our local magazine in-house. So she was going to produce a magazine that goes out to all the households. And so we were talking, and I needed to find funding and what can we offer to sponsors that will encourage them to be sponsor events. And she's like, I'm probably going to be tasked with selling advertisements. So we were like, what if we tie them together? And so when we offer sponsorships, the higher the level, you get an ad in the magazine. So the more money you give for an event, the bigger the ad is in the magazine. So we just created this sponsorship package, and it took off. It has been this great partnership that we created. I've won PRPS awards for our initiative. Our communication director, she has won national awards for the magazine and the sponsorship program. So you have businesses out there, when you go to them and say, hey, will you sponsor that event? They're like, well, what do we get in return? And we can tell them, you're getting an ad in a magazine that's being mailed to over 18,000 people in the township. You can also come to the event and have a booth where you're directly interacting with them. And it is this initiative that we did not expect it to be so successful. This year, we brought in over $80,000 in sponsorship and vendor fees from that program. And it doesn't even cost that much to produce the magazine. So we're offsetting the cost of the magazine and the cost of the events all at the same time.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's really cool.
All our events are free. We don't charge for absolutely any of our events. Even like the bounce houses and activities are completely free at the events because we are just able to bring in that amount of sponsorships. So it has been one of our major, major wins, and it all happened through just a conversation I had with another department head and working together on the program.
Would there ever be an event where you wouldn't want a sponsorship? Like maybe like a dad and daughter or you know what I mean? Do y'all have any events like that, or is every one of your events up for some sort of booth sponsorship at some level?
Pretty much. Now, not all events have like booths, but pretty much all our events are kind of by sponsorships. And I think typically each year, our sponsorship program offsets our event cost between anywhere from 75 to 85%.
Oh, wow. That's really good.
It's impressive.
Cool.
Well, and I know we've talked about sponsorships in like some other episodes, but I want to dive a little bit more into the event side because I feel like for smaller departments, events are like the bread and butter. And I know like when I was in Indian Trail, like that was what the public wanted was we had a movie series, we had a concert series, we had our holiday parade, we had pretty much every event that we did was just a massive turnout. And that's what the community wanted. Where in Mecklenburg County, huge population, it's not the same. You really can't scale movie nights for, when you have a population that you serve of over 1 million people. So you might have smaller things for different rec centers and different communities, but it's not a large scale event like a full township would have. What does the events mean to your town? And, what other than, I know you talked about the Easter event, is there another event that comes to mind as being really impactful that the community just loves?
Yeah, so our largest and most successful event is our Community Day. So in 2016, they were also tasked with me bringing it back. They hadn't had a community day for over 10 years. So that has just also grown and taken on a life of its own. We're lucky enough to have a park big enough to kind of handle it, but we're also busting at the seams. So I'm working with the police department this year on really figuring out the traffic and parking because it's just huge. We get like local athletic associations there, all our businesses. So that has just been fantastic. Another event that's been really successful is we do a disabled sportsman deer hunt. So it's a hunt for individuals with disabilities, physical disabilities. So in Pennsylvania, there's one weekend in October, and that if you have a disabled hunting license, you're able to go out and hunt before regular license. That has been really, really rewarding and really awesome event to put on.
Cool.
Yeah,
I don't know that I've heard of or seen many hunting events from a park and rec department.
We partner with like a local sportsman club, and so they let us club and use the property.
That's neat.
That is really cool. I think it's an interesting point to make that, and I think we've talked about it a little bit before, but when you live in a suburb or even potentially a smaller suburb / maybe a larger rural area that's near an urban center, you're okay driving into town to get that anniversary dinner or to catch that movie, but you don't want to drive into town for your park and rec experience. You want your kids to play ball fields with other kids in the neighborhood. You want to go to a special event and potentially interact with the people that have set their chairs up to your left and your right and know that they're from your community. They're your neighbors instead of, we're in the Austin area. So going to South by Southwest is fun, right? But the people you meet, you'll probably never see again. But if you go to a music, we have a music in the park tonight. If you go to that music in the park, you may see those 300 people at the grocery store the next day or whatever. And so I think the fabric of a small town likes those little events like that. You brought the community day back. What was community day and why did it die?
So it used to be a partnership with our school. So what's unique about South Fayette is we share the same borders as our school. There's kind of what you're at talking about how like the community, like when they go to our ball fields, it's just our community because we don't have, it's the school and the community. So I don't know why it died. I think kind of the school, it used to, community day used to, we didn't have a park big enough, so it used to be on our school campus. So all our schools are on one campus. It's not like they're across town, it's all on a campus. So I don't know like the real reason why it ended. I think maybe that partnership kind of fell apart and they just wanted to kind of have that signature event bringing everyone together. And that's the reason why they wanted to come back. And our parks were growing. So we had like kind of the amenities be able to offer a bigger.
And it's just a day where you celebrate community, have festivals, food, events, I guess.
Vendors, live entertainment, bounce houses, petting zoos. We try to do all our live entertainment to be kind of to the local. So someone in the band is a resident or an alumni. So we try to keep it, some connection to our township.
Is the school involved at all, or is it just y'all now?
So the school, yeah, they do a little bit of partnership. They provide the buses to shuttle people into the park. And then a lot of the school organizations will have booths. So they do a mini-thon, which is like a fundraiser. So that student group has a booth there. So yeah, they're definitely involved in it in some capacity.
You had mentioned that the borders of your school district and the community are the same, correct? So, I don't know if that's unique, but it is to my experience. And we have a fairly robust school district that also encompasses a couple of our bordering communities. So one of the, I guess it's not really an issue for us right now, but I can see that it could be. And I know a neighboring community that has a similar situation, and that is families associate themselves with school districts a lot, right? Like a lot more usually than their towns.
School pride, yeah.
Yes, yep. So when we have 40% of the school district that lives in a different community, but our district is right in the heart of our community. So they're coming from their communities into our village, our town. When we run programs, people associate with us from different communities. We're lucky that our elected officials and very fortunate they have not ever made an issue about it, almost to the point where I've embraced it and said, you know what, we want our residents and the neighboring residents to come here because we have maybe better services, right? Trying to kind of put that chip on our shoulder to say if that's why they want to be here, we want to have them here. They may not pay town tax dollars, they pay the school tax dollars, but we welcome them. Your community size is very similar to mine. Do you, with the robust amount of, it sounds like some of these events are very robust in size. Do you have neighboring community individuals and residents coming in at all? Is that something that you see?
A little bit, I'd say. It's majority of residents. A lot of our residents, unfortunately, actually leave the township for recreation because we don't have a rec center yet. So most of our programs are outdoors because we don't have that. And in Pennsylvania, it's majority cold and rain. So we're kind of the opposite. We're trying to keep our residents here because
sure,
leaving to find those recreation amenities since we don't have, a rec center.
So we have to be creative. We're in a similar sense. We have a small 100-year-old school building that's our rec center, but it's also shared with a few other businesses and municipal offices. We have to be somewhat creative in using indoor space because our weather patterns are very similar to yours. How have you gotten creative to have indoor facility events or programs? Are there some partnerships that you've seen kind of bud and grow from that perspective?
Yeah, I've had to partner with our fire departments. We're unique. We have 4 different fire departments and they each operate separate. So they all have different halls. So I've had programs in there, tried to partner with the school. Just the scheduling of the school makes it a little bit difficult. They have their challenges because, we're not operating the facility. Times where they've been locked out, they can't get in. And so, yeah, you really have to get unique. And we just recently built a township building. So we have a new admin building where we have some meeting rooms. So I'm having some programs in there, but they're definitely not outfit for appropriately we just make do. So we do get very creative on how we offer our indoor programs, but it's very lacking. So we lean heavily on our outdoor programs and our park facilities, and our park facilities probably get a lot more wear and tear because we are, just dumping all our programs into those outdoor facilities.
Yeah, and a caution to anybody out there who goes into an organization that doesn't have their own facility. It's great. We have to be creative. We partner with these other agencies, but you're kind of like you're a guest, right? You are a guest in their facility and you have to, it's all about partnerships. I mean, you really, if there's a mistake or something doesn't go right, and if it's on their end, they kind of brush it off. Oh, our security wasn't there to open the door. But if it's on our end, you got
Hmm.
to do a lot of
Apologizing.
butt
Yep.
kissing and apologizing. Yes, absolutely, and making those individuals your best friends. And we're fortunate that our school district allows us with open doors, but it's still you're on eggshells almost all of the time using other individuals' facilities.
Yep. Yep. It's definitely a challenge.
Well, you seem really creative. So, what is the next program or event you're trying to bring? Like, give us a sneak peek behind the curtain on what cool thing you're trying to do next. Maybe you don't have funding for yet, or you'd like to do, but you haven't gotten all the support or staff that you're hoping for to pull it off.
Oh, a program or event? That's a good question. You're stumped me. As for a park project, I'm working on about over 5 miles of trails through our one park, and it's connecting it to four different neighborhoods. So, been working with the
Nice.
HOAs on the support to connect their communities to our park. As for a program or event, well, a recent one that we kind of just started when you asked the question earlier of like what's one program that you could have, ours has been a puzzle palooza. So it's a puzzle competition. Never thought that it would be so
Hmm.
successful. It's all different generations. It's a mom and their kids. It's grandparents and their kids and grandkids. It's a group of teenagers where they come and you race to complete a puzzle. It is the
Yep.
most simple program to put on, cost us hardly anything, and it has been so successful. But that was one that I just kind of thought of. We started it last year and reached the point where we're doing it like quarterly now because of how popular it's been. And who would have thought puzzles?
We've got a
I
puzzle competition as well, and the people love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did those
I had
puzzle
never heard of it,
programs? Me neither. And
but I saw a
puzzles.
video recently and it was amazing. Like it was intense. Like I saw it was a room with like 100 people. Everyone gets the same puzzle. They have to
Mhm.
open it at the same time, and it's just like a race to the finish line. Like, but
Like
it's
a
really cool.
like a Rubik's cube almost. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so puzzles. Did either of those, Shane or Paula, what you're doing with puzzles, did that come out of COVID? Because puzzles just boomed. You know what I mean? It was like all of a sudden people rediscovered what a puzzle was. Was that a part of that, or was it just kind of ideas or something that you had thought of?
For me, it was kind of an idea because I was trying to find more of those like multi-generational programs and offering something with limited with the space I had. So would love to be able to do one with 100 people, but ours is only like about 20, 30 people. But it was more of like I needed to fill a niche. So it was also, families, teens,
Sure.
kind of something that was all around. So that's whenever kind of I didn't think of it myself. I researched and like
Sure.
stole another municipality, but that's how it came about, was to filling that void.
Yeah, for us, this will be we've done it 3 years now. So this will be the fourth year when we do it next. We, coming out of COVID, we built a game closet that had board games and some puzzles and things that people could do in the game room if they weren't traditional. So we've got a game room that's got all the video games that you could play. It also has arcade games, and then it's almost what we call three generations. You'll see somebody playing ping pong or playing billiard pool, and then someone else is playing golden tee, and then someone else is playing Mario Kart or whatever. And in that same area, we have a built-in cabinet, and I got a really creative rec staff, and they came up with this. I'm sure they researched it from someone as well, put on this puzzle contest, and people get in that room, and we have about 50 or 60 people that participate, and we usually have teams of four, and we have 10 or 12 teams every time, and they seem to really enjoy the camaraderie of each other, knowing that there are other puzzle nerds out there that enjoy that same thing, and seeing who can get the puzzle done first.
We should have one amongst the three of
I
us
was
and
gonna
see who
say,
finishes it first.
It would take me forever. It would take
Okay.
me forever
I was
to
also
do it.
thinking like, would we make a good team at a in a puzzle contest, right?
I think
I
we've
think Shane would
proven
just
we
get in the
wouldn't.
way.
Yeah. I think this podcast has proven we wouldn't make a good team in anything. Our function has been dysfunction.
Well, Paula, I want to ask another question about one of the things I mentioned in your intro about just grants in general. And I think I actually botched the number. I think it's closer to over 6 million. Is that right? Okay, so first off, apologize on that. 6 million is a lot more than what I mentioned earlier. That's amazing. It's incredible that you've been able to acquire those grant funds. What has that meant for your community, and what were some of the projects that came out of the grant funding?
Yeah, so I have to give credit that the grant funding came from finally updating our Parks Master Plan. So when I first started, something I vouched for was to get that up because I knew that if you didn't have a plan, it's very hard to get grant funding. So that was kind of the first step. But from that Master Parks Plan, we have created over, I think it's like close to like 14 or 15 projects from that. And I really like writing grants. I think it's it's a way to tell our the community's story. And through it, I was able to learn a lot about our community, of what they want, because through the grant questions, thinking, what does the community think of this? And able to go out and doing, I love surveys and just gathering that information. So I have so much information to write these grants. And through getting these grants and doing these projects, I think the kind of the Parks and Rec have gained the trust of the community. For so long, before I came, I don't think the community trusted the township to, get park projects done or, get the funding. It wasn't necessarily beyond the tax dollars. So I think it definitely has put, it's great to get the grant funding, but it has put the Parks and Rec department finally up to expectations and a pedestal to the community. And they're seeing projects finally come down. It's not, just talking about it, it's getting the projects done. When we were awarded a state grant of $1 million, state representatives came down, and it was so awesome to invite them into our community and see our park. So it's beyond just the money. It's kind of created, a sense of our community is worth something better, better amenities and standards. And, our community, a lot of the surrounding communities to South Fayette are kind of more advanced than we are. And I hear all the time, we want fields like Upper St. Clair or Peters Township, which are communities around us. And I think with this grant money, we're finally getting those facilities that people expect when they travel for their kids, sports and stuff outside the community. So I really enjoy writing them. I really enjoy getting them because then we get to make those projects happen. So.
Okay, let me ask an important question. So Tom, Jay, and I are part of a little group of folks called the YPN fam, and we actually had a meeting last night. We didn't invite Tom or Jay apparently because they weren't on it, but part of the discussion last night, and we discuss all sorts of topics when we get on these Zoom calls, was ChatGPT. Okay. And I hate it, and I know Tom loves it. I don't know Jay's opinion on it yet, but I would have if he'd have showed up last night, by the way, Paula, but he didn't. And anyway, so I know that a lot of people use it for scholarship applications and grant applications. And what I fear is that it cues people. At some point, if you put a bunch of stuff into ChatGPT and it's specifically about a grant or an application, and then the next town over does it, and 3 towns over does it, and the other town over does it, then when it kicks out, because it's queuing all that information, or it's pulling from all that information, and it kind of, I feel like it cues us all up into the same spot. So I like to write, and I like to write without the prompts. I like to write outside of ChatGPT because I like the creative process. So I guess the question is, did you use ChatGPT in any of your awards things, or do you use it in any of your prompts at all?
Nope, never.
Love it. Love it. Because I think eventually, I think right now I get it. And I think there are some things about it that make sense in some ways. Like if it's just an item for a council registrar, I don't know if it has to be creative, even though I still don't use it. I get why someone would just hit the easy button on it. But I do feel like at some point being different, yours looking not like everyone else's is going to make you stand out. So you don't use ChatGPT. Are you anti-technology, or do you not use it for the same reasons I was talking about?
Nope. I just never used it because it's not going to know what's in my brain. It's not going to know what my community's like. One thing I really like to do when I write grants is take direct quotes from surveys And how Chat GPT is not going to have that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've never used
Well,
it.
proof's in the pudding. If you have $6 million in grants, you haven't needed it.
List. That's the only time I've ever used ChatGPT. ChatGPT who's
When
doing
was it?
for my grocery list. Yeah, that's the only time I've ever used it.
Interesting.
You know, I could talk a lot about that and applications, but when you say the easy button, Shane, I just look at it as from an efficiency standpoint. There are some
Sure.
ways that we can use it, and if I've ever been really stumped on the creative side of things, you can use it. I mean, I've used it to help me, like, hey, how do you think of a great name for this program? And we're in this line, and we're looking this way, and it's just anyway. We can talk about that. I want to shift gears though, Paula. I want to shift gears and talk about PRPS. And I don't know if we talk a whole lot. We talked with Matt Corazona a little bit about North Carolina's association, but Pennsylvania Recreation Park Society is really great. They are one of the best. And just from me being a student of all these associations, obviously I don't know what all 50 are doing, but Pennsylvania, it borders New York, and we've always kind of piggybacked off of Pennsylvania. Tim Hurd is amazing, and I believe he's still the executive director. You know, I guess my question for anybody who has been active in their state society for our guests is why? You know, and I know my answer, and I don't want to give that, but why? You know, tell us about what you've done, what kind of roles you've taken part in as an active member in the society, and what that's meant to you.
I think when I started getting involved, I was kind of voluntold to join.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know a lot about it, but it was after I think I won Young Professional within PRPS, and so they saw a spunk in me. So I have been on several different committees. I've been on award committees. I've been on, we had different branches at one point. Those have now gone away and it's gone a different direction. I have been asked to be co-chair for conference. And now, so Pennsylvania, within PRPS, we're divided up into districts. So we have 3 districts. I'm District 1, and I'm currently the president of District 1. So what that means is we have, district meetings. I organize like workshops and education sessions. But then that also means I serve as a board of director to the overall board of the association. So it's amazing because being part of the board of PRPS, so PRPS, since it's a nonprofit, coming from a government background, you learn what it's like to go into a nonprofit. And there's similarities, but there's definitely difference. So it's been eye-opening because then now when I work with nonprofits, I understand them a lot better. So all our athletic associations, nonprofit, Girl Scout, Boy Scouts. So serving on that board, I'm able to take my government experience, but then I actually had to learn that it's a little bit different. So I would say if anyone wants to get involved with their state organizations, do so because it opens your eyes to different types of organizations and how they're ran and how they function. And then also, it's a way to, if you want to see something happen within the organization or change, then you can actually, be that person to voice it and be involved in making that change. So as you mentioned, Tim Hurd is retiring. So I'm actually on the search committee also to fill that position. So that has been an interesting journey too, because now I'm, being from a smaller department, searches are, more local, but being part of like a national search, it's pretty awesome to learn that and see what goes into it and just the type of wonderful candidates that are out there.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate your perspective that you shared there, and the team in general. You've had great people, and so Nikki's great too, and you have a really great team. But I think the way you put that was very eloquent in the sense that you basically told a story about how the involvement has made you better. It's given you perspective, and the other piece is the network, right? The network that you can get from being a part of the association, again, goes to what Shane was saying about the YPN fam and individuals that you can call on, that you can whatever it's for, personal, professional. And so I think there's just so many benefits to having that experiencing and being a part of the associations. And this hunt that you're on, right, for the new executive director, that's a really unique experience that you're actually getting to enroll in right now that a lot of people won't, and it could be something you're going to be using maybe later on in your profession.
When I first started in the field and I was going to PRPS, you kind of stay with your like local people that you know. being involved with the committees, I know so many people on the other side of the state that I can call or text if I have a question, like, what are you doing in this type of situation? It just opens up your pool of, connections beyond you could even imagine.
I know Tom just said it, but like I'm really intrigued by the search for a new executive director. And where are you looking, or where are you seeing applications come from for a position like that if they're not internal candidates within the state of Pennsylvania that are in Park and Rec?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come from everywhere. We did it in New York when I was president, and then another time 3 years ago, and they asked me to be on that search committee, and we had applicants coming from Canada. We had applicants that were in other states working in associations, and individuals who, I think of it from the perspective of Michael Beatenstein too, right? You know what I mean? He was a practitioner. That might be somewhere that you find someone that puts their name in the hat. It's really a fun experience too. It's a great
cool
exercise. Yeah.
They come from Parks and Rec background, not Parks and Rec background, more nonprofit. It's pretty cool.
Why don't you just share who you're going to select live here? You don't want to. You don't want to. Okay. You mentioned that you're from a smaller agency, and it sounds like your agencies have always been small. You won't know this because Jay was supposed to remind me to hit record on J. Cole's episode, and he didn't.
My heart just stopped for when you said that, because I looked immediately at the record button.
It's recording. It's recording.
It's a trauma for all of us.
But because Jay didn't remind me to hit record for J. Cole, and it's all his fault, she had mentioned that she's in a big department now, Fairfax County. But she had mentioned, I don't know if y'all remember this, guys, from the conversation, or if there's too much drama involved, but she had said she runs it like she runs it as if she was running a small department. And in fact, her mindset is she's a small department staff member running a large department agency. So do you ever see one of these bigger departments in Pennsylvania or somewhere else and think that you would be interested in that? Or do you think you'll always be in one of these, just a smaller department type Park and Rec professionals?
So there's one right next to us that's a big department, and I look up to them. It's great to see kind of the teamwork that they have, and leaning on to each other. So I hope that I can grow mine even bigger, to have more input and more ideas and more opinions, and really, feed off each other. So yeah, either I want to grow that here, or, I would love to be, later down the road, possibly, bigger, just to, share those experiences with other people.
Well, I'm going to transition us over to what we typically call rapid fire, Paula. So I'm going to kick us off with just a question, first thing that comes to mind, and then we'll turn it over to Shane and Tom, and they can ask you a question as well. And we've asked this to a lot of our guests, but I'm always intrigued to see, if you were not in Park and Rec, what do you think your career path would be?
Oh, goodness. Well, I originally went to school for graphic design for 1 year to be a part, but then I realized I couldn't sit at a computer all day. But I will say that 1 year of graphic design, I have really used that experience with this job, making flyers, programs, and things like that. So maybe graphic design, if I could, not sit at a computer all the time.
That's cool. We have not heard that one yet.
No. What is Cooper Webb, your screen name, to throw us all off today?
So my son is named Cooper, and that is his favorite dirt bike rider. So he's a professional dirt bike rider, and he was kind of named after him also. So yeah.
Okay.
I had a million guesses, and the internet Google, I don't think I could have found that answer. So what's a daily ritual that you can't do without?
Daily ritual I can't do without. Check my calendar. I'm managing work calendar, personal calendar, my son's calendar, my husband's calendar. So I probably check it probably like 15 times a day. So
Tom's got one of those big calendars on his wall at the house, like a digital, right, Tom?
The skylight, yes.
I've been doing research on those. You like them?
Oh, you can ask my wife. Yeah, listen, she researched this way too much. She spent a lot of time, and I just pulled the trigger. I was like, I've heard about this for way too long. So it was time to get a gift, and the skylight won. So I like it. Yeah, it's great. I mean, the primary function that we use it for, me anyway, is like shopping lists, and it's kind of neat. It goes to your phone and you can put something on it and your wife would get, or my wife would get it, that kind of thing. So
Now everyone
yeah,
has that Hilton-Parma money though, like
yeah, that's right. It's the bonus that we get every year.
that's right.
So, this is a trick question, but it's gonna get preceded with another question. Are you a football
Oh,
fan, Paula?
I mean, I like the Steelers when they win, and I watch
Okay,
them.
so Steelers. Okay, but you went to Kent State. So here's my trick
not in
question.
Kentucky.
Who
I
is
found
the
out.
who is the best football player to come out of Kent State?
Oh, this is such a
It's a
loaded
it's a
question.
it's a trick question.
Know this. I don't know. Yeah.
Edelman.
Edelman, Julian Edelman. I was hoping to hear bigger things. So is he not a big deal in Kent State?
No, I really don't know.
No, that's awesome.
Oh, poor
That is the
Julian
best.
Edelman.
That's
That's the
it.
best answer.
Uh,
I think
What?
Tom was hoping you'd be like, he is shrined everywhere. There's
Yeah.
a museum after
I'm
him.
sure he is. He's got to be, right? Like
No.
there can't be that many successful
He was an
athletes.
average quarterback in Kent State.
It doesn't matter. He went on to win 3 Super Bowls. That's how many people could say that.
Yeah,
I guess
they
most of the Patriots can. What do you do to unwind?
unwind. I like wine. Like
There you go.
You go along with my wife.
yeah, like in my intro, we have a lake house, just being on the boat during the summer. Wintertime, huge skier. I just got back from Aspen, Colorado, actually last week. Just being outdoors in general.
So I think the lake house is intriguing. The boat, not so much. I don't want to
Oh.
be. I don't want to be rocking. I want to be on. I want to be on stable land.
Wow, it's not that bad. On a lake, what's the worst that can happen?
Oh my gosh,
Loch Ness.
that's right.
I would take a boat day any day. I love a boat day. Okay, well, I'm gonna switch things. Shane, would you rather be on a boat for the entire day or go to Disney for 2 hours?
Ooh,
Oh man,
Which one?
that's
You
a
got to
good
pick
question.
I
I
think
would
I'd
go
pick-
with I would pick the boat for a day because 2 hours is not enough.
2 hours is plenty. I promise. And I would take the boat too. I think I would just figure out. I'd have sunscreen and a long sleeve shirt and pray for the best. I think.
Have you ever been to Disney, Paula?
I have, yes.
Are you a Disney
It's
fan?
overrated, right?
I'm not a crazy Disney fan. It was definitely I was there before kids and after kids, definitely two different experiences. Seeing it through your kids' eyes is just,
Yeah,
a great experience.
special. Paul, how many, if you don't mind me asking, how many kids?
Got one, this one.
So Cooper's, okay, so and he's a 2020 baby. I have a 2020 baby as well, or boy, Jack. And anyway, I'm going to give another plug for Skylight so we can get a sponsorship. That is another reason that we love Skylight. They have a chores list on there and they like get to press a little star and our kids love it. Like it actually helps both of them perform their chores. They're looking forward to it. So Skylight, if you're listening,
You need to send this to them. Yeah.
What's your chore
Okay.
list like, Tom?
we don't use it for the adults yet. Okay, so all right. My real question, Paul, is we talk a lot about mentors. Is there someone either nationally or in your state that you maybe want to give a shout out to? Someone that's really made a big impact on your career?
Yeah, I got two. Would be Ryan Eggleston. He was the township manager when I got hired here at South Fayette Township. Like I said, barely had any experience, and he just saw something in me. He knew I had the energy and the passion, and he was my boss for about 3 years before he moved on. But he was someone that knew your birthday, knew your kids. He brought his family in, and it felt more of, a mentor, personal relationship rather than just a boss and staff member. And then the second person is Paul Besterman. He is the Upper St. Clair Parks and Recreation Director. So it's right next to South Fayette. That's kind of the community I said that we look up to. They have a fantastic rec center, park system, and I am constantly emailing him, calling him, stopping over. How do you handle this situation? And anytime he knows that there might be, a hot topic in South Fayette Township, he's, thinking of us, and you can do this. You're more capable, and he's just been someone who's been very influential in my life, definitely.
Well, I've got one for you, and I don't want to state shame you because I don't know where the hell South Fayetteville Township is next to Philly or Pittsburgh. It sounds like you're a Pittsburgh person, so I don't think you were close to Philly. But I will say I'm as excited about Philly as an NRPA host site as I think I've been for almost any city I've heard, just because I've only been there one time for just like a half day, but it's I don't know. There's something I think unique about Philly that I'm excited to go, and maybe it's just all the cheesesteaks I'm going to eat. But what have you been to Philly? I would assume maybe it's close enough you've been, and if so, what recommendations do you have?
Far. It's like 6, 7 hours. But I have been there a couple times, I think.
Do you have any recommendations? Food, museum, something?
None. I think I've only been there to stop in, not really spend time, maybe fly in. So no, I have nothing. So I'm actually excited as you are, to experience a new city.
I'm going to suggest NRPA does not use you as one of their
local reps
to get people excited about Philly. She's like, no, I'm 6 hours away. I'd never go.
I don't typically think that NRPA's host committee is 6 or 7 hours away.
No, for sure.
Paula, how far are you from Pittsburgh?
Half an hour, 30 minutes.
Half an hour. Okay, so do you go into the city a lot or no? All right, so let's go into the theme of what we always ask guests, and that's food. And since Shane hit it out of the park with Philly, let's transition into Pittsburgh. I've been to Pittsburgh once for a half day to go to a ball game, and I got a Pimanti Brothers sandwich, and I love my sandwiches, and that's a great sandwich. First of all, where do you rate the Pimanti Brothers sandwich with the fries and the pastrami and the coleslaw? Is that something that you give a thumbs up or down? And then what's the place you're recommending to us if we go into Pittsburgh?
Thumbs up, definitely. They're now doing franchising out. So there's a Primanti's right a minute from my office.
That's amazing. Jealous.
Other than that, there is, let me try to think, food wise. It's not necessarily a restaurant, but down in the strip, they have like the local, or not local, but like fish market where you buy to cook. And it's called, what is it called? Woolly's, WHOLLY. You'd have to pick it up and like cook it, but kind of that whole down on the strip marketplace. Yeah.
That sounds great. This sounds like it's up Jay's alley.
I would eat it in a heartbeat. I've had Primanti Brothers. It's good. I'm a fan. So I used to go to Pittsburgh a lot when we were living back home in Buffalo. And it was at the time the affiliate for the AAA baseball team for the Buffalo Bisons was Pittsburgh Pirates. So I grew up with season tickets for the Bison, so went to a lot of Pirates games.
Awesome.
Yeah. Back when it was Three Rivers, not the new stadium, not PNC.
Paul Skeens, big deal in the area? No? Okay. Then that answers that question. We'll cut that out.
Leave it in.
Parks and Rec, I would talk about sports, but I really don't. Sorry about that.
That's funny. Well, Paula, this was awesome. We appreciate you taking the time today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
And guys in Philly.
We'll see ya.
We'll be there.
Thanks,
You'll
Paula.
be our tour guide.
Yeah, keep doing great things, and we're I might see you in a week. Are you going to the PRPS conference?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm running around. I'm wearing a couple hats for that conference again. Yep.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Cool.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Thank you, Paula. Take care.
Stay on or get off.
So listen, I totally dropped the ball. I did not tell you the protocol for this.
Routine.
I messed up, but you are good to go.
Thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed
Bye,
it.
Paula. Yeah,
See ya.
thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Can we at least get a soundbite, Hannah, of Jay saying I messed up or
Yes.
something like that?
I'll
what's
make that
funny
my
is
ringtone.
We were like 5 minutes in, and I sent her every detail possible except for that. And I'm like thinking as we started, I'm like, crap, I never told her we're going to stay on for a few minutes and she can leave. So
The dismount. Yep.
She's doing some great things.
She seems super sharp. I did not know her, but it was great to get to know her better. She is a super sharp, really creative person. I think it's funny, I was a design major at one time, and I think that graphic design thing, she's definitely leaning into it more than even she probably thinks she is. I bet she leans into it way more than just some posters and flyers, some of the other creative stuff they do.
Yeah. I think it's cool because I saw her name from 30 Under 30, and then like the more like I was looking into different folks that were on that list, and I'm like seeing all these other achievements, and then seeing stuff involved with the state association, and I'm like, man, she definitely is a rock star. And there's just so many folks like her that are in their agencies or in their townships that they work, and like they don't get enough credit for the work they're doing and putting them on the map for what they can accomplish.
I love that this podcast constantly introduces me to new people too.
Yeah.
Really talented people that are doing
Yeah.
some really cool stuff.
And I really enjoy that she's in Pennsylvania too, right? I don't know that that's a state that gets highlighted a lot, right? And it's I'll try to snap another RecLess photo while I am there.
Yeah.
With another one of our former guests.
Love it.
And for the record, I just did a quick search on Kent State famous alumni, and like Edelman doesn't even come up in like the top 30.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, we didn't ask.
hey, Steve Harvey, Arsenio Hall,
Oh,
Michael Keaton, like there's
These are not athletes. I said who is the most famous football player, not
I don't know,
amazing
man.
comedian.
Steve
and-
Harvey may think he's still an athlete.
I would much rather have a conversation with Steve Harvey than Julian Edelman.
Although Edelman's little podcast is funny.
Yeah, it is. They're
I've
great.
never watched it all the way through, but like the clips I see, yeah,
Yep.
pretty funny.
Well, if you want to go athlete, James Harrison, he's probably just as big, if not bigger.
In Pittsburgh.
Well, yeah, but like just in general, from a alumni standpoint, James Harrison was a beast, man.
Yeah, won some Super Bowls, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was a
Absolutely.
monster.
Yeah.
So Kent State,
And
it's in Ohio.
Antonio Gates.
Ohio. Ah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
But never won a championship. But either way, we digress. The Paul Skeens thing, by the way, Shane, you may not know who Paul Skeens is, I'm assuming.
Not a clue. Is that like a
he's
skin disease or something?
He's probably the most highest rated young baseball pitcher there is right now. Like he is just a beast.
I would assume that Paul Skeens is on every billboard. You know what I mean? When they do all those he's probably endorsing everything. And his girlfriend is a very famous gymnast too. Like she's I think a Olympian gymnast.
I'll also not know who she is. I honestly thought y'all were making a name up. Paul Skeens.
No, he was like just setting the baseball world on fire last year. He was averaging like 8, 9, 10 strikeouts a game.
Yeah.
Like it was
in
insane.
only 6 or 7 innings a game too. He wasn't pitching 9 innings. He started, his star was budding when he was in LSU. So he was not a whole lot of college baseball players get the notoriety that he did. When he was in college, he was just mowing through, and he was also known for having a really slick mustache. And so he's just got a unique personality, and he's a very, very good pitcher. So I assume in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh doesn't get that kind of once in a generation athlete very often.
No.
Not many teams do.
Well, hey guys, this was fun. And Shane, you're up next for the first time.
First
Yeah.
time in the
Season 4.
season.
I'm excited. Thanks for letting me get one in, fellas. I really appreciate that.
Didn't think it was going to ever happen.
No, I had to pull one of these flex days on you to get one. I really appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Excited.
Well, until then, we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, Jay. Nice job. Bye,
See
everyone.
ya.
See ya.
Follow RecLess Podcast on YouTube for more content and outtakes. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow along on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for news and exclusive clips. RecLess Podcast is edited and produced by Hannah Mize. Thanks for listening. See you next time.